What up, what up, what up? What's going on, everybody? You know who it is. This is Austin, and this is the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about real estate, and you know we talk about lifestyle. Once again, we got another awesome guest that's coming to the show. Be prepared to have these gems dropped as we continue to share this sugar. And a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you haven't done so, definitely log on to austinsmithrealestate.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe to one of the platforms there. And if you have benefited by listening to the show, leave me a rating and review. And let's continue to share this method. So, without further ado, let's get into the show. What's going on, everybody? Today on the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast, you guys know how I love to every now and again throw in a financial empowerment episode. And today's guest, she's pretty much at the point where I can honestly say my next guest doesn't need any introduction, but I'll do it. I'll do it anyway. She's a financial expert, author, educator, hailing from the city of Newark, which everyone knows how I feel about Newark. She's been able to make a passion for teaching and empower women. However, on today's episode, I'm going to have her talk to you fellas as well. And she's teaching everybody how to live richer via financial planning, budgeting, investing, crediting. She's got it all. She started off teaching in preschool, but now she's gone on to help 730,000 plus people live richer. And we're going to be able to talk about all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Tiffany, the Budgetnista at Liche. Tiffany, thank you for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
We'll jump right into it. Let's talk about you getting started. You started off in the preschools of Newark. Which preschool in general?
Well, it was a preschool owned by a nonprofit called Newark Tenants Council.
Okay.
And so they own like a number of preschools. And Newark Tenants Council is the oldest grassroots organization in the nation. I mean, it's since now been defunct post-recession, but yeah. Gotcha.
And ironically, you're also a Red Hawk. So shout out to Montclair State.
Yes, Rutgers. Well, Rutgers and Montclair State. I have to claim both now.
Oh, okay. We'll give you that. The master's was at Rutgers and the undergrad was at Montclair, but all good.
Correct.
So
yes.
we'll walk with both. All good. Okay, so we're starting off in Newark Preschool. I believe Rutgers is where you did the education master's, if I'm correct.
No, well, I went to Rutgers at first, that's why I don't claim Rutgers as much, just for a year.
Okay.
Then I finished my undergraduate at Montclair State, and then I got my master's from Seton Hall University. So very Jersey centric.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's a triangle right there. All good. Okay, so we finished up there, and now we're transitioning into the preschool down in Newark. What about being in that preschool environment gave you the skills that you then were able to transition career-wise?
Honestly, I don't know that there's another job that teaches you more than teaching. I have to say it seems so random. I'm not going to lie, especially after I got my master's. So I have my bachelor's in business with a concentration in marketing. Then I have my master's in education because by then I was already teaching and I thought maybe I'd become a principal. Now, I have to say that teaching preschool day in, day out, if anyone's read Malcolm Gladwell, he has this theory called the 10,000 hour rule, which means that after you do something for 10,000 hours, after you practice a natural talent for 10,000 hours, like for example, Serena Williams, naturally athletic, practiced tennis starting at 6. By 16, because 10 years is about 10,000 hours, she won her first master's. She mastered tennis. So I was a school teacher for 10 years. Teaching is something that I have a natural talent for, but talent and skill are two different things. And so I honed my skill teaching, and then it taught me everything, because when I was running the classroom, so it's like running a business, because I used to order supplies, I had to manage other teachers. I had to manage parents. I had to manage administrators. And then I still had to teach. And I had to speak. And I had to prepare. And I had to be engaging. And I had to be fun. And I had to take you from a place from no knowledge to knowledge. So all of that, everything I do now as the Budgetnista, if I can really point back to the single most influential component of my life that prepared me to be the entrepreneur that I am now in the way that I am, it's hands down teaching preschool for 10 years.
I love how those skills were congruent with everything that you're doing now, right? Because from the outside, from the macro point of view, from the 50,000 foot view, you're able to see how those skills were helped you operate within the business mindset, whereas the like micro level, the 10,000 foot view, you're looking at it like, okay, well, she's gone from teaching preschools to now leading, women between, 25 and 45 say, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's a big difference psychology wise. Was it that simple of just using those skills from one industry to the next? Because I can imagine, it's a two different, psychology levels. How do you handle that?
So really, I mean, it is very different. The truth is, it's actually harder to teach preschool. Like if any good principal will tell you, you put your best teachers with the youngest grades, because here's why. If I'm teaching adults and I say, like just today I had a session, I don't do one-on-ones, but a friend of mine asked me for a favor. So I said, okay. So I'm talking to him. I'm asking him, how much are you spending on your budget? What are your bills? Imagine if I'm asking a 3-year-old, you're telling them, okay, we're going to do the color red today. So this is red, like an apple. You know what 3-year-olds are going to say? What's an apple? There's no point of reference. You have to build from the very beginning. There are kids who don't even know their name. They just know that they're known by their nickname. So you're like, now I got to teach you your name. So now I'm calling you. So you see, so I could be trying to teach something like, today we're going to learn the letter A, but I have to go so far back that I got to teach you your name, that I got to teach you the letter red before I could teach you that apple starts with A. So the truth of the matter, the transition as far as teaching was easy because there's nobody harder to teach than a 3 and 4-year-old because they don't know anything.
Right.
And so it really, the tenets of teaching are the same. You have to check for understanding. You have to be able to deliver information in a way that can be absorbed and consumed. And so for adults, it's just a little bit easier because adults communicate just a little bit better typically. And checking for understanding can be a little easier because sometimes with kids, you can't tell if they're just disinterested or they just don't understand. Like my nephew, like Roman, for example, my nephew Roman is like so smart. But in school, he had a little birthday party in school the other day. I went. He doesn't speak at school. I didn't know. And I was asking the teachers and I was like, cause I just thought he was quiet cause I was there. And they're like, oh no, Roman doesn't say anything. I'm like, Roman knew all his letters, shapes and numbers from when he was 1.5. Roman was doing full-fledged puzzles at 2. And at school, he's Silent Bob because he's like, I don't know you people. And so you struggle with that with kids. Typically with adults, that level of kind of drawing them out, you don't have to deal with that as much. So because the teaching is teaching.
Right.
So that's true across the board. But for adults, the truth of the matter is, to me, the secret sauce of the Budgetnista is that honestly, at its core, the way I taught preschoolers how to read, write, add, subtract, and letter shapes, colors, numbers, that's how I teach you about money. I come from the assumption that you know nothing. And then I'm going to start from the very, very beginning. And I'm going to teach you from a place of love, from a place of kindness. Like everyone loves their preschool teacher, right? Because she's the nicest, she's the sweetest, she's the kindest. And that's the place that I teach financial education from. And people feel that. Preschool teachers give you that safe space. Like I was leaving my nephew and he was upset because he wanted to come home with me. And the preschool teacher opened her arms and he flew into them and she hugged him. Like that's the feeling you get with the Budgetnista. And so so the truth is I really try not to stray from teaching differently because it's what makes the Budgetnista special. You feel safe here. You know you're not going to be judged. You know that I'm going to accept you where you are as you are, and I'm going to help move you from where you already have like your source of genius from. And so I was talking, like I said, my friend today who I was helping with his finances, he was like, I can't believe, I thought it was going to be so much harder. I gave him 7 clear steps that he needs to take within the next 2 weeks. He's like, you didn't teach from this place of deprivation or shame. He's like, I actually feel good and empowered. And that is from teaching preschool.
Love it. And I wanted, because now you've been able to take that mindset and help, over 750,000 people with, living richer. Let's talk about that. Live richer. What does that mean? So, and I know it's not, and I don't want to be cliche because I know it's just not, more money. I know it's not that. So like, what is it, and how are you helping those individuals?
Yeah, no, living richer. It's just a play on the word richer. Richness in life to me is just figuring out how, not what do you want, but how do you want to live? And then using your finances as one of the tools to help you get there. So that's what live richer means. It means defining how you want to live and then effectively using your finances as one of the tools to get you there. And so that's what I've always wanted for people. The reason why I became a school teacher, the reason why I started the Budgetnista is I want to help people live better lives. Whatever your better is, I'm not here to judge that. I want to help you reach it. And I found that people use money typically as the number one reason as to why they cannot. And so that's why I use money as the tool to teach through. But ultimately, my goal is not for you to have a budget or this and that. No, my goal is I want to help you live a better life.
And people, you have a couple of free courses where people can kind of get started at to kind of test the waters and things like that all over your website, right? Where can people find that at?
Yeah, so I have my website, it's the Budgetnista, but if you're like, I need to learn how to budget, how to save, how to fix my credit, even basic home buying, raising your net worth, I have a series called the Live Richer Challenges, and there's 5 of them. There's a net worth edition, a savings edition, credit, home buying, fundamentals, and a savings edition. You could choose whatever one that you think best suits you right now. They're totally free. They're automated. They're typically about 3 weeks long, and you take them, and it's an online e-course, and a daily task and homework is sent to you every day, and you work through it. I mean, we've had people, I can't tell you, there's probably about 5 or 6 people go from homeless to homeowners, or at least being able to afford their own apartment. We've had a 70-year-old woman hit me up the other day saying that for once her bills were actually on time. We've just like right now we're up to about 800,000 actually of women that we've been able to help. We actually help men too. I don't turn anyone away. The reason why I speak to women is that's who's listening. I look at my analytics and it's clear that for the most part it's women that are listening, but we don't turn anyone away. But we do have some men that are in our group. And we call the 800,000 of us, we call ourselves dream catchers. We are the beehive of the personal finance world. Like Beyonce's beehive, we are the dream catcher. So yeah, we rock out, and a day doesn't go by that I don't meet a dream catcher in the street who's not sharing some amazing thing they've been able to accomplish. So it's been an amazing journey.
Awesome. Let's dive into this. We're going to talk about just the psychology of money, and we'll break it down into people that are just getting started. Either they're coming off of a financial hardship, or maybe they're just starting to get things together. And then we'll talk about people that are just looking to go to the next level. So for people that are just getting started and maybe either don't have a huge savings, are living paycheck to paycheck, maybe their credit score needs a little work. What's something that they can do over the course of the next quarter, over the course of the next 3 months, to help them set up 2020 for a major turnaround in their finances?
This is someone who's just getting started.
Just getting started, meaning they, like I said, no savings account. Maybe credit score definitely needs to be worked on. Maybe they're working, like entry-level job where they're living paycheck to paycheck, just trying to get by. But they know that they want to take, their finances to the next level. Obviously, a new job or higher income can alleviate some of those issues. But we realize that does take time. What can they start to do presently today that maybe might give them a little bit of breathing room to take their finances to the next level?
Well, first, I want you to identify where do you currently stand. It's like you go to the doctor, and before they give you pills, right? Like, oh, I don't feel well, here's some pills. That's not what happens.
Right.
The doctor has to first identify where do you stand, and then where do you stand is your budget. People love to say, oh, I don't like a budget. You know who doesn't like budget? It's broke people. Like, you have to have some sort of form of budget. It doesn't have to be super strict. It doesn't have to be, but the problem is that if you don't have a physical picture of what your money is doing, it's going to do anything.
Right.
You know, so a budget is just a clear picture, just a list of all of your expenses and what they cost you a month. Then you subtract what they cost you a month from what you make a month. That's it. A list of all of your expenses. So discretionary and non. So meaning discretionary means like things that you kind of have like easy control over. So like food, hair, grooming, eating out, that kind of stuff. And then non-discretionary, like things like bills that you basically really have to pay.
Right.
So everything, how much they cost you a month. If you get a haircut twice a month, how much is a haircut typically right about now?
For guys, ranging between $15 and $25.
So let's just say $20. And so that means if you get a haircut twice a month, then you're spending $40 on a haircut. That needs to go on there as $40. If your water bill is paid every 3 months like mine is, and it's average of $90, that's 90 divided by 3 months, that's $30 a month. How much do the things on your list cost you a month? That is critical. That's why I keep saying it. And then, like I said, add that up, subtract it from your monthly take-home pay. Where do you stand? Now, either you have money left over, but you likely are not saving it, or there's not enough. If there's not enough, you can look to cut some things back. But if you're already in the beginning kind of like of your career, then you're looking to like, you're gonna have to ask yourself, how can I make more? Does it begin right now creating like a brag folder? A brag folder for your current job is writing down every time you make your current job money or you save your current job money. A friend of mine did this, where every time, like, you know, I was able to write this email generated this amount of income. I was able to consolidate, like, you know, some of our bills, and it says she created a brag folder of the things that she was able to do to help move the company forward, but especially monetarily. Right? Because when you go to ask for your raise in 2020, you say, hey, I'd like a whatever % raise. Here's why I believe I deserve it. In the last 6 months to a year, I made the company $10,000, or I saved the company, and I saved the company $4,000. Do you see how people can relate that to right back to, you literally have earned your raise. Right. So that's something that I would start now. If you haven't already, you should have at the very least 2 checking accounts. One for spending and where your deposits go, and one for bills. And so the reason why you want to separate your spending from your bills is because overdraft is a killer, right? When all of your money is in the same place, it's very easy to spend your bill money accidentally. So at the same bank that you already are, you already have your deposit account. That's what I call it. That's where your money goes in. Either you deposit a check or you have direct deposit. It's your debit card is attached to it. You're going to go to that bank and say, hey, I'd like to open up a separate checking account. And that checking account is going to be specifically for bills. You're not going to get a debit card for that account because you're not going to be swiping anything from that account. Instead, you're going to be paying bills from that account. You can either pay them online manually. Every 2 weeks you sit down and pay your bills, or you can automate your bills. I don't let people come into my bills account. I automate my bills out of my bills account. So that's something else that you can do. And then third, and probably one of the most important things is to have a clear plan for saving. So you do this budget, and you find you have $50 left over a month. Great. But you're like, I don't really see the $50, you know, because that's what happens when you don't create a budget and you don't plan for the money does what it plans to do. Right. And so if you find that you have $50 left over a month, great. Make that $50 a bill. Call it your me bill. So when you're paying you're paying your bills every month or every 2 weeks, if you have $50 every 2 weeks, $25 goes to your me bill, and you're going to put that savings in an online only savings account, not the savings account that's attached to your regular bank, because they're going to give you a piece of a penny for interest. An online only savings account that's where you're going to put your money. And the reason why that's so great, you can go to this website called magnifymoney.com and find one that has an A rating. FDIC insured, and gives you the highest interest rate. A rating, FDIC insured, and the highest interest rate and the lowest required deposit. So you find an online only bank that does that. You put your $25 every pay period there. If you want your money back, that online only bank, that bank account is going to be linked, because banks can speak to each other easily, is going to be linked to your regular checking account, that deposit account that you already had that we talked about earlier. They're going to be linked together, and that's how you're going to transfer money back and forth. The great thing about having your savings away from your regular bank is that when you want your money back, you're going to wait a minimum of 24 hours. That wait time is going to force you to save, because when you're at Target and you want something really bad and your checking says we don't have it and your savings says we do, unless you're willing to sleep at Target for 24 hours for that transfer to happen, you're not getting that money. It's going to force you to save. Saving in an online only bank makes your money inconvenient, and inconvenient money gets saved. Tweet it, Facebook it, Instagram it, Snapchat it. Inconvenient money gets saved. And that's a great space to start if you are just starting out. Budget, savings, bills account.
One thing I took away from you within the past, I would say it's only been a month. Yeah, it hasn't even been a month yet. Saving automation. Oh my goodness, absolutely game changer. And the funny part is, I've always been individuals that's been a pay your first type of guy. Always. So I've never had any, or, it can always be better, but never had major issues with saving and taking whatever money that was coming in and paying myself first. However, I don't do it for that. I do it for the automation of just knowing that every single time I'm spending money's getting taken out of my hand and being put to use or being put to the side. And it's amazing how much spare change just gets invested. And you can change it to round it up to the nearest dollar, multiply that by 3 or whatever the case. And you'd be surprised just how much, because you don't realize it. And then every time that you're looking in the checking account that you're actually spending from, you're like, oh, I only have this amount in here. I can only spend this much. But then you look a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, and you have, a stockpile of money to the side that it's just awesome to see. And, you don't even want to touch it. And I remember your posts when you had mentioned, I think it was either Acorns or Capital or one of those apps. And you were like, yeah, I have an extra, X amount that, I can use this for a vacation or, to business travel or whatever the case. And I thought that was so amazing. So I started doing that for everybody that hasn't done it. Start it. It is absolutely game changing. And you'd be surprised on how your spare change, just $1 here, 50 cents here, $1.50 here. You'd be surprised how much that adds up to over time of your normal spending. Definitely wanted to point that out, and thank you for introducing me to that.
You're welcome.
So, one thing that I wanted to ask was, setting up your budget, everything like that. The one thing that I kind of have an issue with, and I kind of beat myself up with, is when things don't go according to plan. I mean, it is what it is. I don't hold too much weight with it. But how do you handle, say, accidents or random events, or you forgot your cousin's birthday and you want to possibly provide a gift for them? You know what I mean? Like because it always seems this, get birthdays, Christmas, all the time. It always seems to sneak up on us when we're like trying to be on our most saving tip, but at the same time you have these events. Like, how do you work around that?
So I say this: as an adult, you have to know that you have to expect unexpected expenses. Now, you don't know what they're going to be, but they're coming, because that's adult life. Right. So literally, I opened up, it can be a checking or a savings, but typically I say a savings. I literally call it unexpected expenses. I don't know what, I don't know who, I don't know when, I don't know the time nor the hour, but I know it's coming.
Right.
And literally, I would set aside, I would put a little bit of money in there every pay period. So when something came up, it would be like, okay, well, clearly this was for that birthday I forgot about.
Gotcha.
Do you see what I mean? So literally saving for the unexpected. So you have to come to expect the unexpected, meaning that if it's $50 a month, okay, if it's $100 a month, whatever it looks like for what your budget can bear. But know that when it comes to savings, what's most important is, one, retirement, setting aside for that first. So when you're setting aside money, then two, your emergency fund. If there's money left over, then yes, setting aside money for unexpected expenses. Because I mean, worst case scenario, if it's really big, then that's what your emergency fund literally is for, an emergency. Gotcha. But if it's like small little things, setting aside money, like I still do that to this day. I have I like having multiple savings accounts. I have a savings account, and you can name them. I have one of my accounts, my deposit account. It's named deposit. My bills account is named bills. So when I pull it up on my computer or my cell phone, I can see deposit, bills. I can see unexpected expenses. And when something comes, I know I can draw from that. And it's funny. I remember somebody hit me up once after I made that suggestion, and she's like, "Oh man, my car broke down and I had to drain my unexpected expense account." I said, "Did you hear what you just said?" Right. Like, you had money. That's literally, I get it. No one wants to spend money, right, but that's literally what that account is for. Woo, you had it, because a year ago, that money would have come out of your bills account or a credit card.
Right. Let's do this. Let's play the counterpart of the avatar that we just spoke about. Let's say an individual, they are excelling well at their career. They're making good money. They they have some investments that have some equity in it. And their spending is decent. It could always be better. Let's see here. What else? And I'm not explaining myself either. And now me saying it makes it seem like I'm explaining myself. But and let's say that individual is just looking to just take his finances to the next level. Would you say that it just goes straight back to the budget, or at a certain point, are you looking to instead of defense, are you looking to play a little bit more offense by okay, so is that what it like? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so for someone who is out of the struggle pot, so bills are not late, they're putting money aside for retirement, you have some discretionary income, maybe you go on vacation once a year, you are saving. So great, you're in a great solid location. Now it's time you have a strong foundation. Now it's trying to build your financial house, right? And so things like, okay, now there's two types of investing. You can invest for retirement, which comes first. And so investing for retirement, so we're going to look and say, does my company offer a 401k? Am I enrolled? You'd be surprised. People think they're enrolled and they have not. Ask. You're like, there are people who work for a place for 15 years. And what I find is especially public servants. So teachers, firefighters, sometimes they think I'm automatically enrolled. That's not true. You have to go and make sure you're enrolled. So if you're listening to this and you're like, ooh, wait, am I? If you have to ask, am I? Go find out and ask. So one, make sure that you're enrolled in whatever your employer's retirement account is, if there isn't one, and make sure at the very least you are putting up to what they're matching. Matching means many employers will say, I will put up to a certain percent of your gross income into your retirement account as long as you do. So it might be 3%, meaning that if you put 3%, then they will put 3%. So let's just pretend like you made $100 a year. That means if you put $3, if you put $1, they put $1. You put $2, they put $2. You put $3, they put $3. You put $4, they put $3. You put $10, they still put $3. So matching just means I match you up to a certain amount. So at the very least, get your match to see if they have that. So that's one. If they don't match, that's okay. You could put your money in the benefit of putting money in a retirement account with your employer first and maxing that out first is that you can put more money than you can in an outside retirement account. Right?
Gotcha.
So right now I would have to my mind is let me see if I can pull it up. Most you can contribute to a 401k. 401k. It's much more than, so right now, maximum that you can contribute to a 401k if you're under retirement age is $19,000 that you can contribute to 401k, right? Now, after that, you can put money into let's just say you're like, well, I'm not going to contribute to a 401k. I'm going to put my money in a Roth IRA. The most you could put in a Roth IRA right now, as long as you are under 50, is $6,000. Now, why does that matter that you can contribute, like $6,000 versus 19,000? Well, one,
the taxes.
Yes. But you have to just be mindful. Roth and maybe that's not fair to say Roth. Let me just say regular IRA. Because a Roth IRA is money that you set aside after taxes.
Right.
And that means you've already paid taxes on it, and it's allowed to grow tax free. And when you withdraw it, you don't have to pay taxes on the gains.
Right.
Now, if you are going to contribute to a regular IRA, same thing. The contribution to a regular IRA is $6,000. So now this is why, like Austin, like you said, why it's important. When you contribute to a IRA, that is money that you're putting in a retirement account before taxes. So if you make $100,000 and you can contribute $19,000 of that $100,000, so $100,000, and you are able to contribute minus $19,000, the government says, we're not going to tax you on $100,000 because you contributed money to your 401k. Instead, in our eyes, you didn't make $100,000. You made $81,000.
Right.
And so your taxes on $100,000, I don't know, maybe let's just say taxes are 25%. There's probably more, but on $100,000 taxes, let's just say it's 25%. That means your taxes for the year are $20,250 versus $25,000.
Right.
So you get to save $5,000 in taxes if you put money in your 401k. But remember, if you put money in your IRA and not your company's 401k, the most you can set aside of that $100,000 is $6,000.
Right. So
the government says that's fine. So instead of charging you taxes on $100,000, we're going to charge you taxes on $94,000. So 25% tax on $94,000 is $23,000. So you paid $3,000 more in taxes because you didn't contribute as much. So it's typically best, and it depends. You really want to sit down with your financial advisor, sit down with typically your company will have a financial planner or somebody that comes along with your plan to see, does it make sense to max out your company's 401k plan? Because if you do, just know that one of the benefits is that you get to pay less taxes. Although you will pay taxes on that money later, but currently you'll pay less taxes because the government rewards you for setting aside for retirement. So
what about, unfortunately, the individuals who chose to go off the beaten path and do everything themselves, known as the entrepreneurs,
yes,
without the company 401k option? Do you recommend just straight IRA, or do you recommend straight IRA?
I recommend a SEP. So actually, if you are a straight entrepreneur, you are in extra luck. So when you do a SEP, right, that's like
I've just started learning. I don't know too much about that. So this would be for me as well. So awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah. So with a SEP IRA, you can actually, each year you can't put in more than 25% of your compensation or $56,000. So if I make $100,000, right, as an entrepreneur, I can put up to $25,000 because I can't put $56,000 because that's more than 25%. But how dope is that?
Right.
So if you make $300,000, like you can't put tax deferred $56,000 into your 401k or into an IRA or into a Roth.
Right.
But as if you're self-employed, you can, because they understand, because you're self-employed, that what you're doing is a little bit more volatile. So they allow you to put way more money. There are so many tax benefits for being self-employed. And so definitely look into a SEP IRA. Now, this is only if you have to be mindful, because I consider myself an entrepreneur, but I am no longer self-employed because I now am employed by my company.
Right.
So I'm not. So now I made this mistake before where I had a SEP and I didn't tell my financial planner when I switched. I'd gone to like my lawyer. This is why it's important that especially if you are an entrepreneur and as you start to build, that your team is always talking to each other. I had a lawyer. I was like, you know what? he said, Tiffany, now that you're making over 100,000, you should start thinking about switching your company from just the LLC to an S corp, because then you can get rid of self-employment tax and you can save $30,000 in taxes this year. I was like, what? Let's do it.
Right.
Right? Did it. Right? So now I'm not self-employed anymore, so you can't tax me as being self-employed, who actually work for the Budgetnista. She is my boss. Right? But I was still putting money in a SEP. And so that's messy because I didn't know. And so I was putting money in a vehicle that I was no longer eligible for. Now, had I told, if I had my planner and my lawyer and my accountant all talking, they would have known and said, ooh, this is the year we have to take Tiffany out of the SEP and put her in either an IRA or a Roth IRA.
And it was funny because as I was thinking about it, I was like, well, I'm going to have to bring this to my accountant, Carlos.
Me too.
Yeah, and it was awesome seeing him. And he was actually on the podcast a few episodes ago. That episode was awesome, and it's definitely game changer once you actually get. I didn't realize how important taxes were. I mean, when I was an employee, it was just something that and younger, I just thought it was something like, oh yeah, the government just takes your taxes. And then it wasn't until I got into business where I just saw so many just opportunities where you can save, rightfully so, on the income that you made. It's totally changed my complete perspective about taxes, and it helps me focus on not only finding out how I can make more money, but how I can also save more money. Awesome. So just going on the offense with that, those are your two avatars right there for the listeners.
And if you're making more, you really should start be thinking about protecting the money that you're making. Insurance is one of the greatest ways that the wealthy pass money from generation to generation. So really start to look at, okay, how can I use insurance as a tool to pass wealth? It doesn't grow wealth necessarily, but it helps you to pass, well, yes and no, but it helps you to pass wealth from generation to generation. So that's one.
Give me an example on that, because I've never ever since I just started paying the $39 that it is for life insurance. It's just like I don't understand why more people just don't spend the $39 or $40 or like why isn't that prominent, or why do you think in your expertise, and then give us that example of how they can pass that wealth on through the means of insurance?
Well, I think a lot of people, because there's so many things we have to pay for, honestly.
Right.
I get why people look at insurance. They're like, oh, whatever. I can't,
Especially younger, because I definitely understand, because it was, part of me was supporting another, one of my friend's business because he supported mine. So, but then over time, it's just like, oh yeah, like you have to play defense with it, like heavily. So, I totally understand, especially younger, and I'm like, I don't really need life insurance, but I wind up getting it anyway. So, but give us that quick example of just being able to pass it on to the heirs, like with means of insurance.
So you're able to successfully leverage insurance. So here's the thing. Insurance is something that people with foresight have to do, because you yourself are not going to benefit, Austin, right? So let's just say you're healthy, let's just say, you're a healthy young man, but if you're a 65-year-old man and you have kids and you want a $2 million policy, right? So that policy, and let's just say by 65, you've grown like wealth for yourself, and you're wanting to pass on this wealth to your heirs, but not just the wealth that you actually have. You want to leverage your wealth. So right now, like I'm just making up some numbers now. You're 65 and you're able to afford $50,000 a year. Now you don't have to spend this much, but at 65, it's going to cost more because you're older. So you're able to afford $50,000 a year for a $2 million policy. If you pass away, whatever, right? And I mean, you're gonna, even if you die in a year, right? So let's just say you pay the $50,000 out, you die in a year, your heirs are going to get $2 million tax-free. Tax-free. That's crazy.
Right.
And so for, that's what makes insurance, because I'm not talking about, it's not term, term is good to start, and the people will fight against whole life, but I feel like whole life has a place. It's just that it's more expensive for whole life because it typically, there are more, you can actually pull money out of your whole life insurance. And whole life just tends to be more expensive, but it's a vehicle that people use. Because here's the thing, if you have great wealth and you die without a will, like Prince, there's something called like a death tax where literally your estate is going to be taxed, sometimes upwards of 50% or more.
Wow.
So you can literally just be giving away all this wealth to the government. Now, through insurance, if just imagine, and this is what some cultures do, that grandparents will look after their grandchildren in this way. They'll buy an insurance policy on their children, like a hefty insurance policy on their children. So that way, when their children pass, they know their grandchildren will have wealth. Do you see?
Right.
So imagine if each grandparent did that for their grandchild. And especially if you get it when your child is young enough and healthy enough, then you could pay a much lower premium and yield a much higher a much higher yield, right? So right now I got insurance when I was 20, 25, 26, I bought a house. I pay like 30 something bucks a month, maybe $40 a month for $300,000 worth of insurance. Because I got it back then. So imagine, but the only problem with term is that it's for a term, and my insurance policy will be up probably, I think, when I'm like 50 or something. So if I don't die before 50, ain't nobody getting that $300,000.
Right. Right.
But you see how that could pass on wealth. Like, what if at 25 I said, I'm going to get $1 million policy. And, and it's $40 a month or $50 or $60 a month. And I do pass away. And I leave my baby with $1 million. I didn't have $1 million in my lifetime. I have.
Right.
But just saying. But that's why insurance, because it's one of the ways the wealthy folks like to do that, because it's one of the ways that, one, the payments you can write off. You have to talk to your accountant, but you can write off those payments. And then two, when somebody gets the insurance money, that money can be gotten tax free. So that 50% death tax, you can sidestep that. So oftentimes wealthy people will start to invest in insurance policies because you can literally put in and get back a return that's tremendous,
Right. No,
yeah.
That's gotcha. It's amazing. Before our descent here, just two more questions. One, considering the fact that my wife and I absolutely love to travel, culturally, just to see what else is out there, and she is a lot better than I am at accepting the fact that when budgeted properly, we can go traveling. And me, it's still like I have to come to grips with it. I still have this subconscious disbelief that if I travel too much, then X, Y, and Z. But travel hacks. If you had, say, 3 of your budget-friendly travel hacks, what would they be?
Well, one, traveling off peak. So my husband and I went to Jamaica, and I didn't know this at the time, but it was the weekend before Carnival. I was wondering because when we got we were booking our travel, we found this 5-star resort, all inclusive, for it was half off, literally. And I remember when we got there, they were like, "Oh, are you here on your honeymoon? This and that." We were like, "No, but if we are, what do we get? Extra bonus?"
Right.
And they're like, "No, but we're gonna upgrade your room." I was like, "Does that cost any extra money?" Nope. We got everything upgraded and bumped up, and I was trying to figure out why. And the resort, there were people there, but it was not packed to capacity. So one, we saved a lot. We got the resort largely to ourselves, and we got upgraded for free. And I wondered why. And I asked someone, there's not a ton of people here. Is there a reason? They were like, "Oh, Carnival is next week." And I was like, I remember being like, let me write this down on my calendar to come here this week every time.
Right.
So we got 5-star treatment. We even had a butler with the new room. So we got 5-star treatment. And I think the trip cost us a total of under I think it was $400 a piece, including flight.
Ah, beautiful.
right? So it would have been probably 2 or 3 times that much. And so it was just a lesson learned in one, traveling off peak. I mean, unless you're like 22 and you want to go when things are like boom, boom, boom,
Right, right.
like once you get to a certain age, you're like, I don't need all that. Like I just came to relax.
Exactly.
I'm not looking for like the wild spring break crowd.
The scene and everything like that. Exactly.
So traveling off peak for sure. Everybody knows the cheapest days to travel are like Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So and also too, is
that leaving and like is that departure and arrival, like coming and going?
Yes, because here's the thing. You have to think to yourself, lots of people are traveling for one, vacation, that's on the weekends, and then two, for business. Typically business travel happens on like Mondays, right? So if you can travel off peak, so people tend to start leaving for vacation Thursday, Friday.
Right.
So Tuesday, Wednesdays are still the cheapest because they're just not as popular as travel days.
Gotcha.
So, so if you can book then, you're going to save something on flights. And then something that I do is create your wish list for travel in the beginning of the year, all of the countries or states or places you'd like to visit. And then like just all of them. So even if it's 20 of them, you're not going to hit 20, maybe you hit 2 or 3. And then check Groupon and all these discount sites and then travel based upon price. So there are 10 places I'd love to see. I'm probably only going to get to 2 to 3, but I'm going to hit the 2 to 3 based upon price. So Paris didn't go drop this year. So I was able to do South Africa and Santorini, Greece instead. Next year, yes, Paris dropped. So I'm going to do Paris. Do you see what I mean?
I like that idea.
So that's one of the ways I do is that we make our travel list like our ideal travel list. And then we basically, that way we still get to where we want to go, but then we really travel based upon price. So that's something that's really going to be helpful to you.
Like that. Love it. Awesome. And final question. What are your tips on making your wealth, making your finances recession proof? And it's been something that, there was a recent debacle on Wall Street where the yield curve had, turned inverted, and that was quote unquote signaling a recession. So the Dow dropped and S&P and everything like that. But is it just, what are some ways, or if you just had one simple concept of how you can make your money recession proof, what would that, just that concept be?
So, I mean, the best thing to do to kind of weather the storm for a recession is to have some emergency savings. Minimum is 3 months. Honestly, you should have at least 6 months. I think 6 months to a year of emergency savings. If you really want to be recession proof, a year. So liquid, meaning in cash in your online only savings account. And also two, during recessions, things go on sale. Buildings, homes, stocks. So cash is going to be queen. So that means you see what I did there, right?
Right.
So that means that maybe I know, for example, my husband and I really would like to buy an apartment building, and so we save. And
Are you looking for an agent? No, I'm saying. Yeah.
And right now I'm like, no, I'm waiting for the recession.
Selfish plug. No, I feel you.
Because when the recession hits, people are not going to have $350,000 to buy an apartment. Not most people.
Right.
And so we might be able to get an apartment straight cash. Like maybe, we might be able to get a $500,000 or more apartment for something because people just want to get rid of it.
Right.
Because my husband works for the city of Newark as he does property management now for 300 units. I'm like, if you could do 300, you could do 10.
Yep.
And so and then two, if you work for a job, be a good employee. Like get your resume tight and right. Because during the recession, people are going to be letting go of the fat.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be like, I can't afford all this, but if you're an amazing employee, remember, keep that brag folder, because if they're thinking of letting folks go, you can be like, you let me go. It's really going to be a loss for you. And if they do let you go, if you're a really good employee and you keep your resume up and running, then you shouldn't hopefully have a hard time finding another job. And then third and last, you should know what your noodle budget is. And so a noodle budget is what I call if you had to eat ramen noodles, right? So that means what is the lowest common denominator of the money you could spend to maintain your life? So let's just say your monthly expenses are right now with food and groceries and kids, blah, blah, is $5,000 a month. But your noodle budget, if you cut out all the excess, is $4,000. I'm not saying you have to live at 4,000 now. You should know what it is on paper. So if the recession does hit, you could drop down and get your eagle on and get your noodle on. No, actually drop down and get your noodle. So like, so that way, because at some point in time, everyone has to hit a noodle budget. Typically, like it might be when you're super young. It might be you lost a job for 6 months. It might be 2 weeks because you really want to like do something else instead or whatever. And so like you should know what your noodle budget is and know exactly what would have to get cut so you could enact the noodle budget, cut temporarily so you could get back on your feet.
Awesome. Time for the core four, which are the 4 questions that I ask each and every guest on the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast as we start our descent here. Question number 1, what is your favorite aspect about personal finance?
My favorite aspect about personal finance is that the sky is truly the limit. That, if you tweak a little here, tweak a little there. I mean, at one point I was a preschool teacher making $39,000 a year. Now, I mean, it's a slow month if I make that a month, a really slow, bad month.
Right.
And so, like, it's just once you really know how to work it, it's like the sky's the limit. Gotcha.
Question number 2, favorite business or personal development book, and not yours.
No, I wouldn't. Favorite business or personal development book. I would say the one that really changed my life the most probably is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
That's a classic. Question number 3. When you're not out educating, empowering, what are the fun things that you like to do in your spare time?
I love to travel. I love hanging out with my niece and my nephew. They're 2 and 4. And if anybody has like really little ones, like they are hilarious. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I like to take naps.
I can see. I mean, we're going back and forth in this state, and being over here. I can imagine that.
Well, I love me a good nap, and I like reading too.
There we go. Fundamentals. Question number 4, last and not least. Tiffany, where can people find you at?
I am the Budgetnista all over. The Budgetnista on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. TheBudgetnista.com. And yeah, you can hit me up on any of those. I answer all of my emails. I don't answer every single DM. It's just not possible to keep up with all the social medias, but I try my best to answer as many as I can. And I love interacting with people, and I love serving and helping. And if you need any help for any reason, you can find all of my resources, free and otherwise, at thebudgetnista.com.
Beautiful drop. I can tell that is subconscious for you. So
yes,
beautifully said. Thank you so much for taking the time, because I know your schedule is completely hectic. Thank you for taking the time to come back on the show to give back. We thank you for the gold and the gems that you were able to drop. I'm hoping people take that and make it actionable and just, do what they have to do. I know I got my pointers that I can implement right away. Can't wait to talk to my wife about it as we continue to see the world. And here we go, one step at a time. Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell Carlos I said hello. I'll be seeing him shortly.
Me too.
It's about that time. So Here we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bye-bye.